sit back, relax, and let's have a chapter chat. I'm your host, Jessica Foster. Today, we have AJ Wolfe with us, and she is the founder, the creator of the Disney food blog brand, and she is also a published author. Thank you so much for being here, AJ.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I appreciate it.
So I have to tell you that I love Disney, and I know that you love it as well.
Absolutely.
I am what you call a Disney adult. AJ, you're a Disney adult.
I am. Yes, absolutely.
And that's what her book is all about. It is Disney adults exploring and falling in love with a magical subculture. It really is a magical subculture.
I think so. And I think it's a subculture that a lot of people have opinions about and don't really understand.
So if people are listening today and they're like, what in the world is a Disney adult? Can you summarize it for us?
Sure. A Disney adult is someone who purposefully, willingly brings Disney into their life, whether they have kids or not. So chooses to perhaps go to a Disney park for a vacation, or wants to go see the Disney movie, even if even if they don't have kids, or if the kids don't care about it. They will choose Disney merchandise. Maybe not all the time, but they will choose Disney regardless of whether they have kids or not, or whether their kids are the impetus for it.
So we have people all the time say, you're going to Disney again? Do you live there? And I say, I wish I did.
I wish I lived there.
So AJ, in this book, you really explore that subculture, and it does get criticism. It also gets praise, though, Disney adults, but they do get a lot of criticism.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I think that people are a little confused by Disney adults. They don't really understand why there would be grown-ups who are so obsessed with something that is supposed to be for kids. That's probably the number one reason why Disney adults get a lot of criticism, is that they have this hobby that people don't really understand why they would choose that.
So you have the Disney food blog brand, and you've had that for a while now. How long has that been in existence?
We started that in 2009. So, back in the day before Instagram, before social media was really picking up, and before everybody had a smartphone, I wanted to show off what you could get to eat in Disney World, because I knew that people were spending a lot of money on the restaurants there, and Disney didn't publish any pictures of food or even their menus. And so I wanted people to know what they were going to get when they got there, and maybe got to see the food first, so they weren't wasting their money on something they wouldn't want.
And it's just exploded. I know when I was planning a family vacation, it was going to be our longest vacation ever to Disney. And we were bringing my in-laws, my daughter, everything. And I was like, okay, Disney food blog it is. And you helped me plan out all of our meals.
Yay, that's wonderful. That's what I love to hear, and that's why we wake up in the morning, is literally to make sure that people are saving money, not wasting their money on things that they're not going to enjoy. And at this point now, we've been around for 16 years. We cover everything Disney, not just food, although we are still the, eminent source on food in Disney, but we cover everything now so that you're not wasting money across the board.
And this turned into you becoming a published author. Tell me a little bit about that process, how you decided to write a book.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, I've always wanted to do a book, but I was approached by Simon & Schuster to do a book. And so I met my editor, who is also a Disney adult. I met her in Disney World to discuss kind of what we were going to cover. And we both knew that this particular topic was both a very challenging one, but also a very timely one to really dig into. Because like I said, everyone seems to have an opinion about Disney adults because they've gotten a lot of notoriety on TikTok and Reddit. And so people have distinct opinions about us. And so I thought, well, let's dig deep and figure out who we really are.
And if you had to say the one thing that turned you into a Disney adult, do you have that one time in your life that you can pinpoint?
This is a great question, and it's one that I asked a lot of Disney adults as I was researching the book, because I wanted to figure out, why are we like this? Why do we love Disney so much? What makes us so I guess inclined toward this particular multimedia conglomerate? And for most of us, it goes back to an experience with a family member or a friend or a spouse who we really care about and we love, and we had a great memory with them at a Disney park, at a Disney movie, with some sort of Disney product. So it's not really Disney that we love. It is the way that it makes us feel. And that's kind of, I think, the same thing for any hobby, right? You don't love golf. You love how golf makes you feel. You get to walk around, you get to hang out with your friends, you get to feel, you get to be outside. So I think that's something that was a good learning from this book is your hobby doesn't define you, right? It's how it makes you feel, and that's what you're chasing.
And I think that's okay.
Right. As long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else. That's what I like to say.
Yes, and I think that you pointed that out in the book because you actually did talk to some people who said, hey, the obsession was getting out of control. We had to reel it back in because of budgetary reasons.
Right. I talked to several Disney adults who their Disney fandom and their obsession started to tip over into into addiction, really. And I use myself as the primary example for that. Where when I was living in New York City as a 25, 26-year old. I wasn't happy with where my life was, and I was going through kind of a quarter life crisis. And how I was coping was using my credit cards, running up my credit cards to go to Disney World to kind of escape my life, which is, hobbies and things that you love can absolutely turn into obsessions and then addictions. And so you have to kind of keep an eye out for that. Talk to a lot of Disney adults who stepped away from Disney for various reasons, whether they were financial or they were overusing their emotional, mental, physical bandwidth trying to get back to Disney. So it can be a drug in that sense, and you have to be careful about that.
Yeah, it's kind of like everything in moderation, right?
Right, right. And you have to keep an eye on yourself and know kind of when you start seeing those signs of you're neglecting things in your life that are healthy for you, in order to sort of pay heed to your obsession.
So I can think of several times in my life where we have celebrated milestones or something really special has happened
Yeah.
at Disney. So my husband and I, we celebrated our first wedding anniversary at Disney, and
That's great.
we're now about to celebrate 21 years. We even said before we had a child, we said, you know what? When we have a child, we want to bring that child to Disney and just make it so magical. So another core memory, we were going through the adoption process to adopt a
Mhm.
child, and we came up with her name while standing in line at the Magic Kingdom.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And I said, that is a beautiful name for a princess. And it stuck.
Oh, oh, that's wonderful. I love that story. So fun.
And then another thing, I am a breast cancer survivor.
Okay.
And we marked all those milestones with that. So my 1 year after diagnosis, my 5 year survivorship, we would go to Disney and the staff would just treat you so wonderfully. You really did feel like you were at a magical place escaping reality.
Right, exactly. And I think that that's something that is so critical for people to understand. I do touch on this a little bit in my book as well. People think that Disney fans go to Disney to avoid reality, to escape reality, to, I guess, pretend it doesn't exist. And I posit in my book that there's a different reason that Disney fans go to Disney when difficult things are happening in their lives. And it's to process what's going on with a different, sort of more optimistic filter. And I talk in my book about going to Disney when my very best friend and roommate was diagnosed with breast cancer at 27. And we happened to have a trip to Disney planned, and we went to Disney, and it was a place for us to sort of not escape reality. You can't escape reality no matter where you go, but what you can do is put yourself in a different context, in a different place, and process what you need to process with a more optimistic and kind of joyful surrounding, and a safe surrounding too, to really think through what you need to think through. So that's something else that I talk a little bit about in my book, is that maybe we're not escaping reality. Maybe we're just trying to look at it in a different way.
And I think that there are some experiences that can actually make you a better person. I know that you touched on this in your book as well. There's Run Disney, which are the races in Disney
Yeah.
World and Disneyland. I had never been a runner, but
Okay.
my best friend said, "We've got to do a Disney race." So we were logging in, trying to sign up for a race. And I said, "Okay, so we're going to do a 5K, right? Because we're not runners." And she was like, "Well, no, if we're going to travel and we're going to go to Disney, we're going to do the 10K." So
Mhm.
we get in the line in the queue to register, and I get my 10K registration. I don't hear back from her.
Right.
And then she said, "Oh, the 10K was sold out. I'm in the 5K."
No, no.
So I said, "Well, I'm just going to train for this 10K." Ended up
Yeah.
loving it. Later did a Disney half marathon, and now I'm a runner.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I think a lot of people come to that particular hobby through Run Disney. Absolutely. I think that happens a lot.
It's so fun. How often are you at a Disney park?
I'm at a Disney park every couple of months, but I do have a team all around the world, and we are in Disney World and Disneyland every day, and we are in international parks pretty regularly as well. So we are on the ground, and we know what's going on.
You really do know what's going on. I love your voice. And I've actually read a lot of commentary where people were saying that they wanted to listen to the audiobook because you were going to be reading it.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. I don't put my face forward with my brand very much, and so people do recognize me from my voice. That is the thing that they connect with me on, and so I love that. And when Simon and Schuster was like, "Okay, here's a bunch of narrators. Which one do you like?" and I said, "None of them. I'm gonna read this book," because I wrote it's a book that very much has a lot of me in it, and so I wanted to be the one to share that information.
And what do you think that people are getting out of the book? Have they talked with you about it? I know you've kind of been on tour, and has it been a
Mhm.
positive response?
It's been a hugely positive response, and when I first when I first thought about who the audience is for this book, something that I loved about it is that the audience is very broad. It's Disney adults, right? We do, I wrote very much for the Disney adult community, but it's also a journalistic deep dive into this subculture. So if you don't understand Disney adults, if you're a little bit scared of us, if you're kind of confused by us, if you have a friend who's a Disney adult that you're like, why are you like this? This book will help you understand that as well. And this is also a good anthropological pulp culture look at, this fascinating online community, because that's something we really need to start talking about a little bit more, I think, is how online communities are growing and evolving so quickly right now, to the point that a lot of us have more friends online than we have in person. And so that's something else that I wanted to touch on quite a bit in this book, is that evolution of humanity in that way.
It is fascinating. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I think it's scary in some regards because you don't want to lose that human connection. But I think that's what's good about Disney is that you can have this online community, but then you can actually be in front of people too in the parks.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And you can meet them in a safe space and, figure out if they're crazy or not.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you were doing your research for this, was there anything that surprised you? I know you're immersed in it every day, but was there anything
Yeah.
that you found out and you were like, okay, I didn't realize that?
Absolutely. There was one thing, there was a lot of stuff that surprised me, honestly. But one thing in particular, I had sort of structured the book um, around the fact that people get a lot of hate from maybe even friends and family members, colleagues, their real life, acquaintances about the fact that they go to Disney all the time, and that's super weird. And why are they spending so much money to go to Disney World? And so I asked a lot of the folks I was interviewing, hey, it's pretty bad, isn't it, when you just get all that negative hate and stuff from everybody in your life? And they're like, it's not that bad, but what really annoys me is, and they said, other Disney adults. And I was shocked. And the first time I heard that, I was like, I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that because it doesn't really fit with the theory of my book. But I kept hearing it over and over and over again from my interviewees. And so I was like, all right, we got to dig into this. And then it suddenly made perfect sense to me after I kept hearing it over and over again and was really thinking about it. Why would you care what other people say about you if they're not part of your community? You don't care what someone that you hold no esteem for says. You care what your community thinks about you, right? And so that brings it all home to me again, that this is just another version of a community, and we as humans are constantly looking for our tribe and for the people that are like us and that edify us. And those are the people who are most important to us. So once you find that tribe, you're going to care more about what they think of you. And so the interesting thing that people were saying is that, there's such a hierarchy and some status seeking in the Disney adult community in terms of how many parks have you been to? How many hotels have you stayed at? How many rides have you ridden? Have you done these exclusive things? And so there's this little hierarchy that people are constantly trying to one up each other. And so that's part of the difficulty of being part of any community. And it is true of the Disney adult community. So I was super surprised by that and kind of processing that and thinking about that.
That was a surprising take, but I get it, especially once you explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think, any community you're part of, a church community, your work community, your community at work, your colleagues, right? Like those people, you have your own little subculture there. And there are obviously, status seekers and people that are, your elders, right? In that space. And so that's, I don't know. It's a whole PhD thesis I can't wait to dive into.
Yeah, it really is. And as a journalist myself, I loved the interviews that you did with people. I thought that was crucial for this book.
Who cares about me, right? Like, I have my own experiences that I can share, but the goal of this book was really to showcase the extremely broad spectrum of this community. A lot of people think that they know what a Disney adult is and they can spot one from, a mile off. And you really don't. There are different kinds of Disney adults. There are Disney adults that love the movies. There are Disney adults that love the parks. There are Star Wars fans. There's so many different types of people and so many different walks of life. And so I really wanted to dig into and discuss that we're everywhere and we're all different from one another.
It's so true. You will not meet a Disney adult that's just like another Disney adult.
No, because we're all humans. And the other thing that I wanted to really showcase is that Disney adults aren't, that's not their whole personality. In the same way that some people are NFL fans or they love Taylor Swift or, they're super into knitting or whatever. That's not their whole personality. Guess what? There's a lot of facets to all of us as humans. And so you can't just put us in one box. And so I just wanted to show that as well.
So I have to ask, do you have a favorite park?
My favorite park is whatever one I'm in at the time, usually. But my nostalgic favorite park is Epcot. That's kind of what started my love for Disney, was being in Epcot with my family when I was like 7 years old. And so that's always been, 1982 Epcot has always been my passion.
Epcot really is neat. And it's great for the food, too.
Absolutely. The food is incredible. And, it's just such a chill and relaxing park, I think, right now. It's got a couple of great rides, but you're not stressed out to, get on everything. And so you can really take time to sit back and explore and really just enjoy all of those countries. I love it because I love to travel too. So it's really, really fun to sort of see the places I've seen in real life and how they're represented in Epcot.
If we have listeners who are maybe planning a trip with their family, maybe it's their first time, maybe it's their 50th, what advice do you have for them?
Well, Disney is changing constantly. They are changing the parks. They're changing their ticket structures. They're changing, their skip the ride line services all the time. So start planning early. Definitely check out resources like my blog and other resources out there, so that you are ahead of the game. Again, I started Disney Food Blog because I didn't want people to waste money just showing up at the park and eating whatever was in front of them. And it's the same thing for a whole trip to Disney. Plan ahead, make sure you have a game plan, know what your budget is, and use the resources that are out there to plan the best trip that you possibly can. So that's kind of our goal every time, with everything that we do at Disney Food Blog. But that's going to be key to having a great trip.
It's true. Planning ahead is pretty crucial.
It is right now, unfortunately.
It is. It is. So my niece is now in the Disney College program.
Oh, fun.
Yes. So of course we've got to plan a trip to go see her.
Yes.
So AJ, do you think you're going to write another book?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I would love to write another book. And so we're just my husband and I are thinking about, because my husband runs the company with me. And so, we'll sit over at dinner and just be like, what about this idea? What about this idea? What about this idea? So I hope I'll be pitching very soon another book.
So this was a fun process then.
Yes, it was a very fun process, but it was a full-on process. And I think I knew it was going to be, but since it was my first book, I was learning the whole time. So it was using different muscles than I'd used in a long time, and definitely, learning those anti-procrastination tips again. So it was a full-on process, but it was a huge learning process. And so it was a blast to just sort of figure it all out.
Well, I loved the book. I think that even if you're not a Disney adult, I think you should read it because you are going to learn something. I do love how you look at the history of Disney. And again, those interviews were just priceless.
I know. It's such amazing people in this community, and I'm so glad to be a part of it.
Well, we're so glad that you spent some of your day with us. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening. We hope you have a magical day. You've been listening to Chapter Chat. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy reading.